and I am here to talk to you about something I've been getting a lot of questions about, and that is, how on earth do I make my tough topics age appropriate for my kids? How do we talk to our kids about this really tough stuff? Like, what do we do? So I am calling this how we approach tough topics in an age-appropriate way. And so first of all, I have a little bit of a rant, because one of the things that really frustrates me is the fact that we coddle our kids so much in today's society, especially Western society. We coddle our kids so much from real life tough topics, and at the same time, societally, I mean, I'm not saying every family does this, but societally, in general, we overexpose our children to sex, violence, other types of entertainment. I mean, but really just an awful lot of sex and violence in ways that are completely inappropriate. But here's the thing, at the same time, we're not talking about sex and we're not talking about violence in ways that would actually give our kids tools on how to handle those things so that they'd be prepared as they get a little older for dealing with the stuff the world's going to throw at them. So we give them zero preparation, and at the same time, we fill them up with fake entertainment that is all on sex and violence, but like, God forbid we actually have a talk about sexuality, or we have a talk about people starving in other countries, or the actual human effects of war. And so we have our priorities just completely upside down, and it drives me crazy. I really not crazy. I'm not crazy, whatever. Figures of speech, people, figures of speech. So hey, I see several friends on and other people. So please, if you're watching this, just click like, drop me a comment, just say I'm watching, hit thumbs up, drop a heart, smiley face, whatever, and share it so that more people can be watching. If you just hit the share button at the bottom of your screen right now, that will put it out there so other people can watch, and that's super awesome. So first of all, big thing, totally upside down priorities. We avoid real topics. Funerals. We don't want to take our kids to funerals, but at the same time, we will let them watch every last thing that comes on whatever Disney, Nickelodeon, television, anything that's anywhere, movies, cartoons that are filled with gratuitous violence, sexuality, innuendo, adult humor, and so on and so forth. So they binge on fake entertainment. We're not giving them any tools to deal with the real stuff. See, here's the thing though, in child psychology, like, to young children, yes, young children have huge imaginations, but things that they are experiencing from outside their mind, everything feels real. It takes time and maturity for kids to be able to discern between what is fake entertainment, what is produced by Hollywood, and what is real and actually happening. So when we think that because it's fake, because it's just entertainment from an adult point of view, that our kids won't be affected by it, we're not following through on that, because to them, they're experiencing it as real, as authentic, and they're experiencing the real emotions that come with those things. Or we are desensitizing them to it, and we're teaching them to laugh at situations where they should be learning to show empathy. So here's principle number one. When it comes to talking to your children about talking to children in age-appropriate ways about tough topics, flip that back right side up. That means cut all the fake entertainment. Get rid of the stuff that is fake violence, innuendo, fake sexuality, adult content. Wait until later, or never works too. If you really want to be following, is it Philippians 4:8? Whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are good, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest. If that's what you're really headed for, then just cut that out all completely. But in the meantime, replace that with discussions about real stuff. You know, I can't tell you how many people I've heard of who, like, the fish dies and they don't want their kids to know because they don't want their kids to be sad. Now, I'm a mom and I get not wanting your kids to be sad. Nobody wants our children to hurt and feel sad. But if you just go buy a new fish and put it back in, then they've just lost the opportunity to learn. Your children have just lost the opportunity to experience grief and learn how to process it with you comforting them. You've just short-circuited a healthy, natural journey through human emotion. Have you ever thought of it that way? If a pet dies, if there's a bully at school, if there's a loss in the family, if there's something else going on, something comes on the news about children starving in another country, or war that's tearing apart families, or a wall and a family's getting ripped apart at borders. I'm not going to go there. This is not a political thing. This is a parenting thing. So yeah, don't hate on my comment line for that, please. When there's real stuff going on, when there's real issues, don't avoid those real issues. Don't avoid talking to your kids about those real issues. Ask them how those things make them feel. Ask them how they would feel if they were involved and they were among those people or those children, or that was their family member. Give your kids opportunities to build resilience. We have a whole generation of people who their greatest hardship has often been experienced on a screen or in a video game or in a movie, and so they have short-circuited the opportunities, because we are a screen generation, to build resilience, and then we're left with this brittle, rigid emotional infrastructure where when real things do happen in life, we aren't capable of navigating through them because we haven't been taught how to feel big feelings and get through to the other side without breaking down. So ways to do that, practical ways to do that. Read great books, discuss real stuff, and cut out all the fake entertainment that makes fun of or minimizes or diminishes or gaslights in any way the experience of people who are going through real hard things. So that would be most children's entertainment, most cartoons, most comic books, most movies. It's all useless filler. And instead, fill it up with stuff like, except for maybe a couple of parts, even like a 5-year-old kid can understand a book like Corrie ten Boom's Hiding Place. They can understand the difference between good and fighting to save people's lives because you follow Jesus and you obey what he says about being honest and doing what's right, and battling an evil enemy that wants to kill good people for no reason other than that they have the wrong color skin or the wrong kind of name or the wrong type of bloodline. Small children get that, because to small children, everything is real. Small children under the age of 10 get the battle between good and evil. And if we diminish and desensitize them to the battle between good and evil, then when they're older, they don't really care. But if we help them engage those big feelings when they're little and embrace empathy and resilience, then we are giving them tools to emotionally handle bigger stuff that happens to them later. So if you're going to read a great book, like The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom is a great one. If you don't know about that story, it's about a family in the Netherlands who hid Jews in their home at the risk of their own lives and ended up being discovered by the Gestapo and sent to concentration camps, and their story of resilience. So here's why that makes a great kid's story. And you can filter out parts if you're reading it out loud as a family and you're just like, hey, this is just a little bit too strong for my kids at this particular age, whatever. But overall, the story is a fantastic story because it showcases people who went through horrific stuff, and their faith and their belief in God and their Bible study and their prayer life carried them through. And because of Jesus, they were conquerors and overcomers on the other side, and they never wavered from what they believed. And that is the kind of heroes our kids need to be emulating. Not the kind who wear capes, not the kind who have special powers, the kind who do what's right though the heavens fall. The kind who would rather go burn at the stake than hurt someone, than lie to someone, than be caught doing something that they know is unsafe or immoral. So that's one great one. There are a ton of other amazing books, and I will drop some of those links in comments underneath this, and maybe I'll do that a few in one comment, and I'll pin that after I'm done with this later this afternoon. So, you know, there's always some things that need to wait. But I believe that if we focus on teaching our children empathy and resilience by showing them real stories about real people and refusing to shelter them from the real things that happen in life, we can help them have the tools to be amazing, empathetic, big-hearted, go change the world kind of adults. And one of the things that is really great, so a couple of years ago, my kids found out about the refugee crisis in Greece, where so many people were flooding across the channel from Turkey, from the Middle East, and they were showing up in Greece. And we watched a video in church about these families, freezing cold water, some of them super sick, and they washed up on the shores of the Greek islands. And at the time, my daughter was just barely 5, and she starts crying in church. And this is the great thing about little kids, that when they see something that's wrong and unjust, they have this super sensitive fair meter. And like, you know, little kids like, but it's not fair, it's not fair, it's not. Well, what that is, that's their justice gene. It hasn't been like pounded out of them. They haven't become numbed to it by entertainment and television and just being jaded by life. And so my little girl was just like, Mommy, I want to go make them hot oatmeal and wrap them in blankets. What can we do? Well, several months after that, we ended up actually going as a family with like 65 other people. And we spent 2 weeks working in refugee camps with refugee kids in Greece. Best experience ever. My kids were young, they were little, they were like 5 and 6, and it changed their lives. You know why? Because kids love to be involved in something that makes them feel like they're making a difference. So whether that for you is like spending a birthday party, packing the Samaritan shoe boxes to send to orphan kids or kids in underdeveloped countries instead of like getting presents at a birthday party, or whether that is trekking off to a far-flung corner of the globe and doing refugee work with your small children so that they feel like they're part of something. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you take that sense of deep compassion that kids have naturally, that sense of connecting with someone else's pain, that sense of understanding grief and loss, and instead of putting them on a steady diet of like secular entertainment where that just gets numbed right out of them, put them on a diet of, you see that pain in the world? Let's go fix it. Let's go do something. Let's sign a petition. Let's write a letter. Let's go feed someone. Let's travel and fix it. Let's be part of the solution. So I think those are super huge aspects to talking to our kids about really tough topics in an age-appropriate way. And that, the first thing is to just go ahead and have the conversations. Go ahead and talk to your kids about it in a way that just gets them engaged in the conversation. And then the one question is like, well, what about things that just really completely are not appropriate for a young child? And there are still going to be those things that it's just completely inappropriate for a small child to hear. And that is where I like to use something I call the suitcase analogy. So this is something you are totally welcome to use with your kids, borrow it, share it, put it to good use. I actually got it out of that book, The Hiding Place, with Corrie ten Boom, when she tells the story of when she was a little girl. And so when she was little, she asked her dad one time a question that was entirely inappropriate for the answer. Was just, there was no way he could give her an age-appropriate answer because she was very small. And they were riding on a train together. And he had a very heavy suitcase over by the edge of the train seats. And he, instead of answering her question, he said, "Corrie, would you please get up and go pick up my suitcase?" And she's like, "Okay, Papa." So she gets over and she's trying to pick up his suitcase. And she's like, can't, it's too heavy. And he says, "That is like the answer to your question. Right now, the answer to that question is too heavy, and so I will carry it for you until you are old enough and strong enough to carry the answer for it yourself. And when you are, I will give you the answer so that you can carry it for yourself." So I've told that to my kids on occasions when there are things that simply aren't appropriate. And now all I have to do, if they ask a question or if they want to know some kind of detail that is just not appropriate for their age, all I have to do is say, "Oh, hey, honey, that's a suitcase question." And they're like, "Oh, okay, Mommy, I'm just not big enough to carry that yet." And it's this shorthand where I don't have to explain or ignore the question or pretend like I didn't hear it. And I don't have to get flustered either. I have a handy answer ready to go. That's a suitcase question. And they know the story, they know what it's about, and they're able to just let it go instead of like pushing and trying to get me to go ahead and tell them, because they know that when they're old enough and they have the strength to carry that I will tell them. And they just aren't big enough to hold the weight of it right now. And that's something that makes total perfect sense to them as little kids. So anyway, those are some basic things. Other than that, just talk about all of it. Talk about it. Talk about what happens when people are violent. Talk about what happens when somebody dies and the grief. Let your kids experience loss. Talk about sexuality in a healthy and loving and appropriate God-given way from really young. I've got blog posts on my blog at sarahmcdougal.com about resources for having those kind of conversations. And there is another great kids book called The Bucket Filler. You can be a bucket filler, and it's about oh my goodness, there's like a ring-tailed hawk right there outside my car. Anyway, it's about being a person who notices when other people are hurting and filling their buckets so that they are always filled up with appreciation. It's a terrific little kids book. I'll drop the link in a little bit after I get off of here, and you can get it on Amazon for just a few bucks. And so it's a really positive way to go about talking to kids about how to help other people with their feelings. So, in summary, our priorities are upside down. We need to flip them right side up. We need to cut back on all of the fake entertainment that desensitizes kids to real feelings. We need to increase our content and our exposure with kids to things that are discussing real stuff. We need to help them see heroes of real life people that showed resilience, that went through heavy things and then were able to overcome them. And then beyond that, let them know that they can change the world. And when there's something you really, truly can't talk to them about, just tell them the suitcase is too heavy. Tell them that story and they'll get it. I promise. So that is my Saturday afternoon Defender Brigade family abuse awareness, talk about tough stuff parenting video for today. And I really hope you will share it. If you hung out with me this far and you watched all the way to the end, thank you so much. If you have questions, or this sparked something, or you want some of the other resources, drop me a comment. And if you just enjoyed it and it helped you, please like it and share it so that lots of other parents can see it. And if there's a way something that you have really super enjoyed and you want me to talk about it, or a question you want answered, send me a private message or drop me a comment too, because I will totally do that on an upcoming Saturday afternoon video. And thank you so much. I hope you have a super awesome weekend and go have a great time with your family and Jesus. See you later.